So in previous lecture we have finished with the relationship between change in Gibbs free energy with respect to pressure and with respect to volume. Okay. Now next part is the Gibbs-Helmholtz equation. So these two scientists, J. Willard Gibbs and H. Helmholtz, has derived the important relation which shows the relationship between change in the free energy, change in the enthalpy, and the rate of change of Gibbs free energy with respect to temperature at constant pressure. Okay, so they have derived the important relation which shows the relationship between these all parameters. This is delta G, delta H, and change in the Gibbs free energy with respect to temperature at constant pressure. Okay, so this relationship is known as a Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, and it is used to evaluate the important thermodynamic parameters such as delta H, delta E, delta S, etc. Okay, so it is widely used to study the physical and chemical changes that is occurring into the given system. Okay, so if we are having the changes in the energies of the system, we can certainly say that there is a changes of the physical as well as chemical properties of a given system, because the properties are indirectly depending upon the energies of a system. Okay, and we have considering all the energies, that is delta E, delta H, delta S. So now consider the derivation part of this Gibbs-Helmholtz equation. So for this they have again considered the standard equation of the Gibbs free energy. Okay, what is the standard equation? That is G is equals to H minus Ts, and we know that this enthalpy H is given by what? It is E, that is internal energy, plus PV type of energy. So just simply to substitute that energy of H in the given equation. Now upon complete differentiation, like we have used the UV rule of multiplication, same differentiation we can use here. So dg is equals to what? Dg is equals to dE plus PdV plus VdP minus TdS minus SdT. Okay, so now according to the first law of thermodynamics, we know that this is the first law of thermodynamics, that is heat energy is nothing but the internal energy plus PV type of energy, that is dq is equals to dE plus PdV. Okay, so we can come across this all these formulas of first law of thermodynamics, then second law of thermodynamics. Okay, all of these things we can check using that this law, first law of thermodynamics. Okay, also we have the second law of thermodynamics, that is dq reversible upon dt is equals to ds. Okay, so this is the second law of thermodynamics. So based upon this equation we can again get the value of tds, which is again equals to dE is equals to TdS minus PdV. So simply substituted the values of this in this differential equation, that is this equation. Okay, differential equation. So here again these two terms get cancelled out. Okay, so we have been only left with this, and this term get cancelled off. Okay, so we have been left with only VdP minus SdT. So this is the important relation for the deriving all the equations. Okay, so far we have seen 4 to 5 equations. So whatever the equation that they are asking, we just need to simply have the this equation, and based upon this equation we can calculate the Gibbs free energy change at constant temperature, at constant pressure, or with respect to pressure, or with respect to volume likewise. Okay, so constant pressure, that is dP is equals to 0, so we just need to have the dg is equals to minus sdt. Okay, now in order to derive the Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, consider the two cases, that is initial case and final case. So if G1 and G2s are the free energies in the initial and final states respectively, then dG1 and dG2 be the energy changes or the free energies when the temperature is changed by the very small amount, that is dt. Okay, so there are the two states, that is initial state and final state, that is dg1 and dg2. So we have just considered the change in the Gibbs free energy will resulted due to the change in the small temperature, that is dt. Okay, so there is a first case, that is dg1 is equals to minus s1 dt, and dg2 is the minus s2 dt, where s1 and s2 are what? That is the entropies of a system in the initial and final state respectively. Okay, now subtracting these two equation, that is equation number 1.24 from 1.25. so we just simply subtract that two equations, so we will get dg2 minus dg1 is equals to minus s2 plus s1 dt. So we have just taken this common minus sign, so this comes out to be what, delta d of delta g is equals to minus delta s dt, okay, or at constant pressure this dab of delta g upon dab of t at constant pressure it comes out to be minus delta s, okay, minus delta s. Now substitute that equation in the our Gibbs free energy change equation, that is delta g is equals to delta h minus t delta s, okay. So now substitute that value for delta s, so overall we can get the delta g is equals to what, delta g is equals to delta h plus t into dab of delta g upon dab of t at constant pressure, okay. So this equation is called as a Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, and the term dab of delta g upon delta t is called as a temperature coefficient of a free energy, okay. So sometimes you might be asked about the various changes, that is either delta g or delta h in the given numericals or some problems, or you might be sometimes need to calculate only the temperature coefficient of free energy change. So there we just need to take the difference of two free energies with respect to difference in the two temperatures, okay. So now consider one example. So for an isobaric gaseous system, okay, isobaric, so isobaric process means what, pressure of system is kept constant, okay. So there again we need to like have the certain basic knowledge of first law of thermodynamics and all the various types of systems that we have so far seen, okay. So isobaric system means the pressure of a system is kept constant. Now the free energy changes at 27 degrees centigrade was minus 30.2 kilojoule, and at 28 degrees centigrade it was around minus 30.28 kilojoules, okay. So now find the enthalpy change, that is we need to find out the delta H of a process at 27 degrees centigrade, means at initial temperature we need to find out the enthalpy change. So now first we need to calculate the free energy temperature coefficient, that is delta G upon dt at constant pressure. So what is the difference between two energy changes, that is minus 30.28 minus of 30.2 divided by difference in temperature is comes out to be what, 301 minus 300, which is 1 simply, okay. So this temperature coefficient comes out to be around minus 0.08 kilojoule per Kelvin, okay. So the units are also important, which is kilojoule per Kelvin, because this temperature is having units of Kelvin. Now this delta G is equals to delta H plus T into this temperature coefficient, okay. So this is the standard formula for Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, that is delta G is equals to delta H plus T into dab of delta G upon dt at constant pressure. So simply just substitute the values and obtain the values for delta H, okay. So here certain mistake is there, printing mistake is there, that is here plus sign should come, okay, so that the final answer comes out to be the minus 6.2 kilojoule, okay. So this is the final answer, okay. So this is how we can use we use this equation for calculation of Gibbs free energy, enthalpy, or the temperature coefficient, okay. So that is the importance of Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, okay. Now next part is the phase equilibrium in the given system. So we need to consider the change in Gibbs free energy with respect to pressure or with respect to temperature graphically, okay. Now if we consider the phase change in the given system, so like consider the system having the two phases, that is liquid phase and vapor phase of a pure substance, that is one component system. So these two phases are kept in at constant pressure and temperature, okay. So next is to consider the Gibbs free energy of these two phases, okay. So it is possible to have the two phases which are equally and reversibly in equilibrium with each other. So if we like have the liquid and vapor phases, that two phases are in equilibrium with each other. So at equilibrium we know that the Gibbs free energy change for at equilibrium is 0 for the given system, okay. So Gibbs free energy at equilibrium is 0. So delta G be the energy, Gibbs free energy change in the given process, and this Ga and Gb are the free energy changes of the liquid phase and vapor phase per mole. So this delta G is comes out to be what? Gb minus Ga, that is Gibbs free energy at vapor phase to the Gibbs free energy of liquid phase. But at equilibrium we know that this delta G, that is Gibbs free energy, is 0. So we can simply say that the free energy for the vapor phase and free energy for the liquid phase at equilibrium is 0. So we can say that whenever two phases of single component, that is important, okay, two phases of single component or one component system are in equilibrium at given temperature and pressure, then the molar free energies of this is same in each phase. Okay, so molar free energies of a given component in each phase are same. So this is the important statement that comes out. Okay, so next is to study the variation of the pressure of a liquid with respect to temperature. Okay, so vapor pressure of a liquid is nothing but the pressure exerted by the vapors of that particular liquid. Okay, so vapor pressure of a liquid is in an equilibrium pressure of a vapors which is in contact with liquid. So when the temperature of liquid is changes, keeping the pressure constant, or pressure is changed by keeping the temperature. Okay, so there are the two cases, either we can keep the pressure constant or the temperature constant. So one of the phase would vanish off because there is a equilibrium of two phases in the given system at particular temperature or at particular pressure. Okay, so but if you want to like keep this temperature as well as pressure both constant, then there has to be change in the free energy. Okay, Gibbs free energy. So there is a third case in which like temperature and pressure are changes in such a way that keeping the free energy change of a liquid and vapor phase equals to one another. Okay, so this is the third case where we have kept the free energy change of the system constant. Okay, so that what will be the result? So this can only be happen if the two phases are coexisting. Okay, so the vapor pressure or the of the liquid is normally increases by increasing in the temperature. So this is the general or ideal curve which is expected, that is with increasing in the temperature the vapor pressure of the system increases. And this is obvious because if we give the temperature to the means a certain energy, heat energy is given to the system, so that will resulted into the increase in the vapors of a given liquid phase, and so ultimately the vapor pressure of the that vapors going to increase. Okay, so the vapor pressure of a liquid at constant temperature, but as the temperature increases due to the gain in the thermal energy, more molecules are converted into the vapor phase from its liquid, and they will contribute more to the vapor pressure. Okay, so above the critical temperature only vapor phase will be existing, and below the critical temperature there is a liquid vapor phase which are coexisting at equilibrium. Okay, so the increase in the vapor pressure with respect to temperature can be bestly elaborated by using the next important equation, that is Clapeyron equation. Okay, so there are the two important equation, that is Clapeyron equation and another one is the Clapeyron-Clausius equation. So these two equations are quite important, so we'll try to see that equations in the next lecture. Okay.